Now I want to jump to something that was rolled out yesterday and has been under discussion the last few days as we begin this year's hurricane season. We want to do our best to provide as much information as we can to citizens of this region as to what their actual risk factors are if a hurricane should come to this region. There's no substitute for staying engaged and informed and listening to real-time requests and instructions from public safety officials. But as Houstonians or Gulf Coast residents think about what their risk factors are, we want to provide tools to improve what they can do. We know that people from all over the country and all over the world continue to move here on a regular basis. We know that people in this region move internally fairly frequently. So you have a lot of new folks who've never experienced a hurricane event, and you have a lot of Houstonians that may have been in a coastal community but have moved inland, and so their risk situation has changed, or someone who has been on the west side of Houston and moved down to the Clear Lake region, for example, and their risk factors have changed in the other way. So we want to get more data to Houstonians. The City of Houston and Rice University have developed a storm risk calculator to help Houston residents have a better understanding of the threat they might face from the various effects of hurricanes and tropical storms. The calculator, now available at risk.rtsnets.com, is aimed at helping residents make informed decisions about evacuating prior to or after a hurricane. Now, of course, this joins the information that we've had at HoustonHideFromTheWind.org. And I can't emphasize enough, what we want is people to know what their situation is. Don't wait till something happens. Get an assessment today. And to take you into a more in-depth discussion of what was involved in putting this website together and compiling the information, I want to introduce Dr. Bob Stein, who I know most of you already know.
Thank you. I will be real brief. The website is available. The instructions are there. This is a 3-year project that we did with Leonardo Buenos-Asalio, who's a professor of civil and environmental engineering, my colleague, Subramanian, who couldn't be with us today, and Bernard Ganu, who works at HARC. Very simply, the one big message you want to get out is we are not attempting on the website today to tell people what happens in Hurricane Ike. We've been getting a lot of and very gratifying use of the website, and lots of blogs and lots of emails. Nancy Behrens, who works on the Citizens.net, we've got a survey up that allows people to tell us whether or not we are in the ballpark with our estimates. But the important thing, as the mayor said, and I can't emphasize enough, is like anything else, like driving a car, moving to a new neighborhood, get acquainted now before a hurricane approaches. When a hurricane approaches, when severe weather approaches, we will be streaming data from the National Weather Service. We will be updating every 6 and as frequently as every 4 hours these estimates for risk from flood, surge, wind, and power outages. And we will want people to be able to use the website carefully, quickly, and effectively. And the time to do that is now, not when, of course, we approach severe weather. Be happy to answer any questions. One other thing we'll be probably doing with, I hope, the help of the Baker Institute, is putting out every other week or during this hurricane season a blog simply updating information that we have. And the key thing here is that we want feedback from the public. This is not a finished product by any means, not just the technical aspects of it, but also the user-friendliness. If we have made mistakes, if we've designed the website so it's not as user-friendly, we will want to make those changes, and we'll do it now while we have plenty of time before when we know our really active season starts in September. I'll be happy to answer questions, and Leonardo is here as well.
We're going to do questions on this, and then we'll go to general questions regarding forensics.
We're going to come back with the Forensic Center in a few minutes, and Representative Hopkins in the back. But if any questions about, since we're in hurricane season, Any questions about this particular project?
The only access is by computer, Bob?
We hope to develop an app for phones, smartphones, but that's probably a product for the next year. We started this somewhat on a slightly smaller budget, and the technology now is available. We hope to have that sooner than the 2013 session, but now it's not available yet.
Mr. Leonardo speaks Spanish.
Yes.
Can we do an interview after the work session?
Is the website Spanish as well?
No, I'm embarrassed to say that in the course of doing everything, I just learned that Leonardo knows Spanish from Colombia, but it is a fault of ours, and we will move quickly to make that correction.
Mayor, do you know if Hide from the Wind is in Spanish as well?
It's not. I talked to Sharon, and it's just one of those things which, you know, we should have thought of and didn't, and when I was asked at 8 o'clock yesterday morning, I just looked at myself and said, you know, and there are probably 2 other Asian languages. We probably will follow the same guidelines of the building itself, which is once a population is a significant number, we'll get working on that, but it does take some, it really just takes getting the people in there to do it. The key thing to remember here also is the website doesn't have a lot of text. It's color-coded, it's done with icons, not because of language issues and not even because of literacy, because of the speed of usage. We want to design an app for smartphones, and clearly the text there will be very minimal. The colors of red to yellow to green, I think will work reasonably well, but it's something that we didn't think of.
So that's what will people see when they get to the website? Is it a map? Is it a...
Oh yeah, I mean, you can see it when you go to that site. You'll actually get a questionnaire, 3 questions, and then you type in your address and your zip code, and up will pop up, just like a Google map, just like you do on an app to get how to get, you know, and that puts Hide from the Wind. But the important point is that you'll get 4 characterizations of risk: wind, flood, surge, and power outage. You go from medium, you go from high to no risk, and we describe what that risk represents in terms of what we call a half-mile square area. These calculations, which are on our website, and if anyone wants, I can send you the PowerPoint, are based upon looking at historical data, fragility curves. The same kind of data went into Hide from the Wind. What we do is give you estimates for a 1/2 mile square area. That's around 2,600 units in the Harris County area, compared to the higher level of aggregation with Hide from the Wind, 100, a little less than 100 zip codes. So we're giving you highly, highly granular data, 2 face blocks, let's say, in the neighborhood like the Heights, and it is, of course, an average. So we're getting a lot of emails from people saying, well, that's not what happened to B&I. What I want to emphasize today is what's on the website is typical for a Category 1 through Category 5. You can choose. The default when you go to the website is Category 2. If you want to see what a Category 3 or 4 look like, or Rita, you have to move the cursor just like you would do a zoom or up, and you'll get those characteristics. And I think that's one of the things we need to do better at communicating, sort of hoping you'll help us tell the voters.
Professor, did you put together an archive of the ongoing events that took place during Ike as well as Rita, so that we could categorically go back and see exactly what happened now that the aftermath is over with, and we can learn from
I don't know what U of H has done. We at Rice did not do that. This research group didn't. There's another group under Phil.
Is Rice going to be doing anything like that for the two hurricanes?
We're not planning on it now.
Tony, I'm not exactly sure the thrust of the question, but we look at every significant incident and do a post-incident analysis, what we did right, what we did wrong, what we could have done better. But those are always looking back, and no 2 storms are alike, and so that's always the trap. You prepare a response to the last storm that hit rather than making sure that you have the broadest spectrum of options available for the next storm that comes. Dennis Rimsky heads our public safety response here in the city of Houston, and I'm going to ask him to say a few things about where we are this year in terms of hurricane season. But the most important things are we have a lot of new folks, and people move a lot here. They may never have experienced a storm. First thing you need to know is, where are you in relation to the biggest dangers from a storm? The biggest danger is water, is storm surge. Storm surge is normally what kills people. Wind is something that can be dangerous, but it's not as dangerous as that storm surge. And depending on where you are in Harris County or in the city of Houston, You may really not have any danger from storm surge, but then the next thing to do is to determine what would your course of action be if you needed to evacuate. What's your danger? Whether you need to evacuate, where would you go? Do you have the necessary papers? Do you have cash? Do you have medications that you would need in an evacuation if an evacuation were ordered? Is your gas tank topped off? Some of those things that you would want to do now. What's my risk? Where are my papers? What would I need to take with me? Make a list. Some things you would do once something enters the Gulf, such as making sure your gas tank is topped off and you have food in the house. And then other things you would decide when we begin to be able to predict landfall in this area, and that would be, okay, I live in Spring Branch. I know I don't have to worry about a storm surge, but there's going to be wind. I'm going to shelter in place, and then I'm going to evacuate afterwards if I lose my power. You have to be able to step people through those types of thought processes. Chief, did I forget anything?
Mayor, one point I want to make is these two websites do similar things. First of all, the hide from the wind was something we put together a few years ago that will allow you to put in your zip code, and it will tell you the wind speed that you can expect in your zip code for the existing hurricane that's in the Gulf. The reason we did that, because most of Houston and Harris County is at risk for wind damage, not storm surge, as the mayor said. That was so popular that initially we did it for Harris County. We expanded the data, and that data is now available for the 13 county metropolitan area, 13 counties that surround the city of Houston. So you can enter your zip code in that region and determine what wind speed from the current hurricane would affect your area. You know, a lot of people hear there's a hurricane out there with 125 mile an hour winds. By the time it hits most places in the city, you're talking about 70, 80 miles an hour, which is a significant difference. The second thing I want to mention is the risk calculator is for Harris County only. At this point, we were only able to fund the data to do Harris County. So that information is only available for citizens within Harris County. And it has a twofold purpose. One, we encourage people to use it now to determine what their generic risk is from various categories of hurricanes. But also, when you learn from the Weather Service that there is a hurricane in the Atlantic, actually, we start tracking these things days and weeks before they actually become a threat to us. You can then input that data for that current storm and learn what your risk is from the real-time data that we're updating every 4 hours. So it serves a dual purpose. One, do it now to see what your general risk is. Secondly, do it when a hurricane surfaces within the Gulf.
And so you're a professional in transportation, modes of transportation, but what have you done to update the evacuation process? Because the evacuation process during Rita was the most critical to the city of Houston.
Well,
have you done anything to improve that, the contraflow, the whole concept of getting people from the surge areas out of the city?
It worked really well at night.
yes,
Say that again?
the state developed the contraflow process that we didn't have in place during Hurricane Rita. Secondly, the reason we had so much gridlock and so many people on the street, there were people who evacuated who didn't need to. So our thought was we provide the community with information so they can make appropriate decisions about whether or not they need to shelter in place or evacuate. Our hope is that because most of Houston and Harris County are at risk primarily from wind, that people will consider sheltering in place, and that will be our message to them. That unless you're in a designated evacuation zone, you need to consider sheltering in place. If you live in a trailer home or a place that you don't think is windworthy, then you can move to some other place. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to leave the city.
We're going to switch out now.